Hello, my rats. It is I, your leader, your rat queen. It's been a minute. Yeah, I know you know that. And I know there's still only like a few of us that enjoy this podcast, but again, this is just, I like talking to you guys, and some of you like listening, and that's really cool. And if you're not a part of the rat chats, that also lets you talk to me too, because I can add like little text box and like fun thingies for you to engage with as well. And then I can hear from you because I actually like hearing from you. Actually, I tried a live the other day on my Instagram, tried like a rat chats live where we just like could hang out, and two people joined because I'm so popular. I'm excited to be back. I feel like we have a lot of things to talk about, but I also just wanted to kind of do a New Year's episode because this is kind of how like the podcast started, was just like me being like, I kind of hate the bullshit of the world and wanted to share my ratty views on them, which is why it's called Ratitude Check. Like, check your ratitude. Are we in the right when we're ratting out, or are we in the wrong? Because I think there's both. I think there's times when it's really good to be a rat, and I think there's times where it's like, oh, maybe like my rathood is like standing in my way of better things. This past year, 2024, was a lot. It wasn't a good year for things that I will share and things that I won't share. And like, that's just the way it goes. You can't share it all. Otherwise, what are you? You got no mystery, okay? A rat has to have some mystery. But I'm sorry I disappeared on you. It just got way too much. The last quarter of the year was crazy, and things started getting really bad as of April. So like most of last year was just kind of poop. And the scary thing is that my rat brain wants to say is like, oh, it could get worse though. Which I'm like, oh, don't even go there, girl. Like, let's not even fucking go there, because it can always be worse. But that doesn't mean like what's happening to you in that moment isn't like, ooh, this is really tricky, right? There's like a lot at play, like I said. We haven't talked about it on the podcast. I got diagnosed with ADHD in September, which really isn't a big deal. I've always been this way, so like I really don't feel any type of way about it other than like, oh, there's a name for like the differences I feel when I'm talking to others. And it's been cool because sometimes I've felt very different because I'm like, oh my God, like people's brains aren't working the way my brain likes to work. And it's really cool too because I think that was when I called myself a rat. I think it was like very much a way of like trying to explain to people like I don't think like you, and I don't want to think like you, and I respect how you think, but I need you to respect how I think too, and like how I think is like a rat. Turns out there's a better name for it. Depends who you ask. Doctors will say there's a better name for it, and they'll call it ADHD. I would say rat is kind of a fun name for it, but like whatever. I didn't know I had ADHD. Like I really didn't. I just always felt different. Like I was just thought like something was different, and I've always liked myself, like, which is really cool. I've always had good, I think, self-worth, but then when it came to society I was insecure. So it's like what I mean is I've always liked myself, but then when I'd be in social situations or like put in whatever life events or like things like that, that's when I'd be like, ooh, I'm very insecure, I don't feel like I fit in, what do I do? And yet I didn't want to change myself because I'm like, I like everything I'm doing, like I'm proud of the shit I'm doing, but yet no one seems to be interpreting me correctly, which really I still hate to this day. I keep saying, I was saying even before I was diagnosed, I really hate being perceived because I'm like, I guarantee you're perceiving me wrong. Like, I think that's why I've always hated it, because people keep trying to put me in a box, and they'll like hear things I say, and even people that love me, like they'll be like, friends, I've had friends where it's like they'll hear something I say and then be like, oh, like that must be because of this, and it's like, no, no, it's because of this like other weird like neurodivergent thing that you have no idea about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's been frustrating. But I feel really good about having like the name for it for myself, honestly, just because I'm like, okay, great. Now I can kind of communicate better and like understand when I'm being a rat and like when to enjoy it, like I said, and when to not. And I'm not implying that if you identify with the term rat, that means you have ADHD. I am not implying that. You might be neurodivergent. We might have like a pretty heavy neurodivergent community because often people who feel kind of ratty or outcasted tend to be a little different, But there could be a lot of reasons why you're in the rat community, and you are welcome here for whichever reason you identify with. I just happen to get like a bit of a fancier label than rat, but again, I would say like rat trumps all, and there was room for many in the rat kingdom and in the sewers. Okay, we got lots of space for all types of people who feel a little different or a little over it or a little bit like, I don't like society. And you might not like society because fair. Like, you know what I mean? You might have read a magazine and been like, what the fuck's going on, right? So it's just whatever the reason is you're here, whether it's because you also hate weddings and you're like, why don't I like this like societal stepping stone, and everyone is making me feel weird about it. Like, I feel like a rat. Great, you're here. We love you. You might be here because you're like, I'm bullied at school. Like, where are my people? And it's like, we're here. The rats are here. Okay. I don't know what it is that brought you here, but I'm so grateful for you being here. And happy 2025. I think it's going to be a really good year for the rats. I seriously so lost my sparkle in 2024. It's like actually crazy. And I actually had a video go viral, and like that's how you know. That's how you know you lost your sparkle, because never once has a video of me not talking, just being existing, gone viral. Like, I am not Alex Earl. I am not a drop gorgeous beauty queen. Like I mean, hey, I'm not ugly, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like my face is not gonna sink ships, like, or whatever that saying is, like, her face, the face to sink 1,000 ships, whatever the fuck that saying is. I ain't got one, right? Like there's never been a video where it's like her face alone is what made her go viral, right? But I did this video of like my face at the start of 2024 and my face at the end, and everyone could see the sparkle dye. And like, it went viral on Instagram, and everyone was like sharing it to their stories. That's how much they related to my sparkle dyeing. Like, whoa, that was crazy. Hilarious. I love it. Hope they became rats. Hope they like saw that and were like, ooh, I'm resonating. I really just want this to be a community for humans who are not resonating with like a lot that's going on, and like we can just be safe here and chat about things here. And though I am the rat queen, it doesn't mean I'm always right? And we know that. So let's talk about goal setting for 2025, or like how that can get toxic pretty quickly, which I love to talk about. Big sister rants. That's probably maybe why you're here. I think that is a talent of mine. But again, your big sister might not always be right, but she will rant at you, and you're welcome to listen to it. But basically, I really fear you making like a toxic vision board, for example, like putting on there, for example, and trigger warning, let's when we're talking goals, we're going to talk about bodies. Maybe we're going to talk about diet. So if you want to tune out now, that's cool. Glad you're here if you stay, but it's totally cool to be like, oh, this might not hit me the right way, and you skedoodle out. But if you put a picture of a body, for example, on your board, and it's a body that your body probably never wants to be, that might be a hard goal for you. You might be setting yourself up for something not so fun. So is there a different kind of picture you could put that implies maybe a similar goal, but one that has a little more love behind it? Maybe, right? And that's just like a thought. And I don't know, that picture you put up there might have been put up there with love, and you might be in a very good place right now to put that picture up there, and you do you. But if it's feeling like that picture makes you want to cry, maybe let's take it off the board and find one that could like be similar. Like, what if we put up, okay, this is going to be crazy sister advice here, okay? This is rat advice to the extreme. What if you found like a cartoon character, right? Like, and not like a crazy one. Like, I'm talking like probably like a Disney animal, okay? Because those are happy. And like maybe one that like inspires you to be like your best self, right? Like, for example, I've always really liked Miko from Pocahontas. I've always really liked Thumper from Bambi. They've got spunk, okay? So like maybe I'd put a picture of them up, and like that's just going to show that I'm going to have spunk this year, rather than like something that isn't as joyful to identify with. Might not always be the best idea, right? And honestly, these vision boards are important, like especially if you are going to look at it all the time, that shit sinks in, okay? And if it's not something that's attainable, I just think it's going to hurt. And I'm not saying it's not attainable. I'm just saying we have to be careful. Does that make sense? It must be done with love. Whatever you select, it must be done with love. It must be done with reality. It must be done with I've had a good long think about this, and this feels right. It can't just be like, hey, like, would I love to put a picture up of a Victoria's Secret supermodel with the idea of like, oh my God, I could be her one day? Cool. That's so great. Like, love that she exists, and she is a queen, and she is probably stunning. Love that. But am I ever going to be one? No, I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm really not. But what does she embody that I could put on there? Like, maybe confidence. Like, maybe let's tune into what's really attractive about her. It's probably her confidence. You know what I mean? Well, she's probably stunning too. I'm rambling because I really don't like to toe the line of like implying either side of the coin is bad. I very much like to exist in the gray zone, but we must acknowledge what is toxic, and we must acknowledge what is lazy. And I think that is the trickiest part of making a vision board, is like, sometimes to avoid toxic, I almost get into like a quitter lazy zone. We don't want that, because that's no good either. That's its own brand of toxic. But sometimes when it's too positive, it's too toxic, it's too like outlandish goal setting, it's like, well, we're not going to achieve that, so therefore that is toxic, and that will haunt us too. tell me why I decided to dive into the hardest topic of all off the bat. Tell me why. Tell me why. No, literally, I'm like, okay. So, because like obviously this is like something so personal to so many people because the world really likes to comment on bodies and appearances, and that sucks. So I think it's just about like knowing yourself. And like, again, when you're making that vision board, when you're making that goal, if you feel panic, you're probably not in the right zone. I don't know how to describe that better. Like, the gut needs to align. Like, it can't just be like the brain wanting this or the heart wanting this. It's got to be a whole body, we can do this, not like a, I hate that I'm not this, I want to be this. Ooh, rough energy, no matter what you're putting on there, right? Like, could be like manifesting, I don't know, like love. And it's like, yeah, you might want like the perfect love, but like that might make you swipe right on absolutely everything because perfection actually doesn't exist. I don't know. I'm just trying to, know thyself, rat. Okay. That's all I can say. When you're making those vision boards, know thyself. And I really think the best thing you could do if you don't know yourself, because that can take practice, is like when you find a picture you resonate with, ask yourself why. And if it's like something that's feeling like it could maybe be toxic, like try to maybe find another photo that invokes a little more love or like a better gut reaction than like a reaction of like, oh, like, damn, like I'm not that. That's not great, right? So again, like get creative. Honestly, get creative. Like my vision board this year is very like interpretive, and it actually doesn't have many concrete things on it because I think that's just a safer zone. And I think like evoking a vibe on a vision board is really cool. And I know every like I'm not a whatever the TikTok like a I'm not a manifestation coach, that's the word. I'm not one of those. So like I could be wrong, right? As we know. I'm just trying to keep us happy versus like, like I don't want to keep us away from success is the thing I'm saying. Because I know like a lot of them are like, be specific. And I get that because truly what you put on your board, it matters. But I think what's cooler than being specific with like objects or like tangible things is being specific with feelings, specific with like gut instinct, like specific with like vibes. I think that's really cool too. And maybe a bit of a safer route until you get into a comfortable place with goals, if that makes sense. I did put a couple concrete things on there. I want to learn guitar this year, so I put that on my vision board. But what was really cool was when I was looking through the pictures, I try to really like wait till one resonates. And I was also like wanting to find a travel photo, and I was thinking I want to visit my friend in Scotland. And I was like, maybe that would be cool to manifest, like blah blah. Then I found a guitar photo, and the book beside the guitar that's resting beside it is a book of Scotland. And I was like, oh my God. So that's the one I'm gonna put on my board. Because I'm telling you, these things are so specific. It'll be weird. Like if you make a vision board and you like check it at the end of the year, it'll be a little weird how specific some things got. And like that's why you need to be careful. I don't want to get too, rat priestess on you. Like no, that's the wrong word. What are they? I've just been reading a lot of fairy books and like there's the high priestesses. I don't mean it like that. I just, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to get too like I know what I'm talking about, but I am like, whoa, some of the stuff on my 2024 board came true in a way I didn't mean it to. So for example, I had put on my board, I really wanted the like Phoebe and Mike wedding from Friends because everything goes wrong and it's the most beautiful wedding ever. And the big wedding gets canceled by a snowstorm and they just get married in a pile of snow. And I'm like, I have always thought that is one of the most beautiful TV weddings. And she like is in the coffee shop that she always gets coffee at, and then she just marries him next to a sewer like a true rat queen. I was like, that is it for me. So I put those images on, and it's not because I was trying to manifest that my wedding got canceled. It's just I was like, that vibe is the vibe that I want. It's just like, doesn't matter, marrying the love of your life, like it's all good. So I put that on there, and I put some like other images from Friends, and like Friends is kind of written all over these images, like the kind of classic Friends writing. My wedding comes and goes. There's not even a snowstorm, so it didn't even manifest it that way. I didn't even have snow on my wedding day, and I wanted snow. So whatever, like it doesn't matter. But what was cool is I then not joined, like we together with some friends formed like a sketch troupe. And if you follow me on Instagram, you maybe see some of our videos sometimes. We call each other All Sorts. That's our like sketch troupe name. And we did our first show at Guelph. And the amount of times, and we've done like many shows since, and the amount of times different people have said to us, you remind us of the cast of Friends. It's weird. It's weird. It's so, so strange, which is awesome. It's a huge compliment, especially when you're like a sketch troupe, and yes, I am Rachel. Like, we already knew that. Sometimes I'm Monica though, and sometimes I'm Phoebe, depending on who you are in the dynamic. I might come across as different ways, but I think at the end of the day, I've got I don't really have that much Rachel energy aside from I think like the aura. I have the Rachel aura, maybe more of a Monica mindset. I don't know. Anyways, in my group, I'm definitely like the Rachel. And we just had so many people say that to us. And I didn't even put it together until I was like looking at my old vision board and peeling stuff off where it like clicked in my head like, holy shit, I did bring in the cast of Friends into my life. And it wasn't even in the way I intended at all. So I really think they work in weird and fun and cool ways. And they're not that serious, but you do have to be careful. Mixed messages. I'm giving mixed messages. Classic me. If you don't want to do a vision board, I don't really like New Year's resolutions unless it's something you can like actually achieve. Like, I don't know, like I'm going to take a Zumba class. Okay, in 365 days, you could get to a Zumba class. Great. But if it's like something, yeah, I don't know about New Year's resolutions, but what I do like for the new year is a word. I always like a word or a statement or a vibe to walk into the new year with. Like last year, or was it the year before? I think it was last year. Maybe it was the year before. Anyway, one year it was like, I want to walk on stage like a man does. Because men walk on stage and they're not worried about anything. They're like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, and I think there are women and other people who can walk on stage and feel that way. But I really noticed that like in the comedy scene in Toronto that like a lot of the men just like walked on stage. Even if they weren't the best person, they weren't worried at all. And I was like, that's the vibe. That's the vibe, Taylor. You need to walk on stage like a man. And these are your own personal goals. So like, don't worry about like that's just how I interpreted what I was seeing, right? It's not that it's necessarily true. There's a ton of other humans who can walk on stage with confidence outside of men. I'm not saying it's just them, but they kind of walk on there with like a blind confidence. Like they don't give a fuck. And like sometimes in like the crazy way, like of like, oh, okay, so you're just like purely confident because you're a man. That's just how I interpreted it. Not all men. But like they carry this, they're worry free in a sense because society wasn't that hard on them. Like, let's be honest, depending on who they are and what kind of man they are, right? Like if you're like a white man, life has been good in a lot of ways. All right. Like that's just facts. Okay. And they walk on stage with such like with that, they're on the wings of like whatever the fuck that is, you know? And so that was my goal. And I did so many more shows and I am a lot more comfortable on stage. And that was just like the weird, like tangible vibe that I tried to just like spin for that year. And it worked. And this year I have my own word, but I'm not sharing it because I think that's another interesting thing is like, don't share your shit because I believe in the evil eye. And I never really knew much about the evil eye until I became a bride. And then I was like, ooh, not everyone around you, even if they love you, are putting the best eyes on you at all times. So you want to protect yourself from that shit. So maybe don't tell your bestie like what your goal is. And your bestie might have their best intentions for you at heart. But I think any bad energy on something so important is just risky. And that's not to say that the people in your life want to put bad energy on that. Because like you could tell someone, like I could tell someone like that stage thing, right? It could be like, I'm going to walk on stage like a confident freaking white man, right? And someone could be like, ew, like what a stupid, embarrassing goal. And even though they don't say it out loud, they're like putting it on my thing. And I don't want that. I like leave me alone. Like you got to protect your shit. I don't know. Yes, I'm going to be honest, rats. I'm getting crazier with age, all right? Like, and call it crazy or call it smart. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. It's working for me. And I'm going with it. Okay? Life is so hard. Like if you're not Delulu in some way, it's not going to work out. Have fun with it. Protect it. Even from the most loving of people. Okay? Like, I don't know. Even like speaking it out to like the little air demons. I don't know. All I know is it's safest inside your head. and on like a vision board. But again, I used like, maybe someone could figure it out if they dug in, but no one really cares that much, right? So whatever. I'm sounding very interesting on today's podcast coming back. But I think that's maybe why I needed a little breaky poo, because, maybe, I don't know. When you go to pick an image though, or like a word, like there are really cool like interpretive images. So for example, like if I wanted to, let's say like my goal was like, and this is not mine because again, I'm not sharing it, but let's say it was like to work on my personal style. Okay. Like I'm not feeling good about what I wear or how I look. I could put up some toxic things of like outfits and bags that I can't afford. And I know some manifestation coaches would be like, put them on there so that you do get them. Like, I hear you. Because again, the visuals are powerful. You don't want to like actually like tell yourself you can't get those things. 100% you don't want to do that. But then sometimes putting them on, you know what I mean? Do you see how complicated that is? When you start fucking around with like the woo-woo, it's complicated, okay? And that's what's beautiful about it, and cool and powerful. Love. But like, okay, so I am sounding wild. And all I've had today is tea, coffee, and water. So don't even get me. I don't know. I like thinking about this stuff and talking about this stuff, and my brain, as we know, is neurodivergent. So I see it all differently, I think, than like when it's just coming out of someone's mouth. Like I spiral. I love to spiral. That is, I think, like a good word for me. A rat spiral. Maybe we'll add that to the vernacular. But what I'm trying to say is, it can be awesome to put, like, for example, on my board last year, because I tried to go with this thing that like all these coaches are saying. I put a Prada label on my vision board, which is crazy because I'm just not someone who buys luxury, thinks she deserves luxury. And I'm like, well, that's bad. I deserve luxury. Like, but I wasn't too comfortable with it. So, but anyways, I put it on there, and guess what? Near the end of the year, and I kept the box. And it's over there because I was like, wow, I manifested that in. Prada sent me a perfume. And they sent me the Emma Watson one, which I also had a Harry Potter picture on my board. Okay? It's weird. It's weird. And you can say it's coincidence. And if you're saying it's coincidence, you're probably not still listening. Like, that's freaking fine. It's just fun. And if you want to have fun, and you want to dig into the fun of life, which I think everyone should, why not, right? Call it coincidence, call it whatever you want. But it was cool. And I brought that in, right? But I also noticed that it came in a way that was comfortable for me. It was a perfume. So like, what do we know about me? I love makeup, skincare, Sephora, right? And so it came in a very Sephora way. And it wasn't like a pair of Prada loafers, which I love. Which makes sense though, because like, duh, like I don't make that kind of money. Like, but then it's like, do you put it on there so that you make that kind of money? Like, I don't know. See how it can, like, it's like fun to put it on there, but that was like, maybe that's a bad example because that's kind of just a funsy example. And I did want to teach myself that I deserve good things, and I'm trying to, whatever. That's different than putting like a body goal, okay? Like one is just like a fun object to own, like a little Ursula under the sea, right? Or Ariel, for that matter. She also collects shiny things. And the other could really hurt you. So let's be wary of the differences, Let's proceed with caution, and let's just always be thinking about what we put on the board. But what I'm trying to say is there are abstract things you can put on there that might fill that gap. So like, let's go back to the body thing, even though like hot topic, right? It's tough. Okay. I, to this day, really, sometimes, you have to be very careful. It's hard. We can talk about bodies on another episode too, but maybe I need an expert on the panel for something like that, because I don't want to hurt anybody. So what I'm saying though is there's abstract photos on Pinterest that are really cool and really vibey, and like you could interpret them a million ways. So it could be like, you could put like a neon abstract woman, okay? Like, let's say that. And then like you might find this cool like graphic of like an old superhero comic, and it's neon, and it's like, well, maybe we could put that on our board, because it's not necessarily that we want her body, because she probably is a cartoon, and cartoon bodies aren't real, right? And who even, like, you, right? Barbie would have been what, like 7 foot tall if she had been a real human, 9 foot tall, right? She would have been on her toes all the time. You don't really want her body. Like, you know what I mean? But you could take that abstract thing so that it doesn't hurt so much so that it remains abstract, right? What about a Pablo Picasso painting? Or like, so you know what I mean? Like something abstract so that it doesn't become like a fixated, like, I gotta look like that. It's very interpretive. And maybe it's more of a vibe of like, that's screaming health to me. That's fun. Or again, like leaning into like, again, going with the abstract. Like, let's say we're talking about health. Like, what about like a, you can say the stupidest thing, but like, yeah, like what about like a rabbit? Like, look, what are rabbits known for? Eating veggies. Cool. The rabbit is the symbol of eating veggies, but like, it's maybe a little cute. It's maybe a little cutie little happy fucking rabbit. And it brings you happiness so that you, when you look at it, you're like, oh, happy. Oh yeah, I wanted to eat more vegetables, instead of like a picture of like some unrealistic standard where it's like, oh, I can't achieve that. Like I've never been able to achieve that. Like I'm not eating enough vegetables. Like, do you know what I mean? I think I'm making sense, but I've got no one here to validate whether I am or not. And the neighborhood children have just begun basketball, and they are like 14-year-old boys, and they scare the shit out of me. And I don't want them to know I'm an influencer, and and my ring light is on, so I have to leave now. Okay, I'm like gonna hide down here. But I love you guys so much. We're back, baby. Okay, Thursdays, Ratitude check. We will continue checking our Ratitude. It's season 2, the upgraded version, because I'm just becoming. Before I didn't even want the title of Queen of the Rats, and now I do, baby. I'm friggin' ready for it. Okay? So, rats, I love you. Thank you for everything. And rats, that's the end of the episode.